Hi, everybody. Sherry Sokolowski with SLS Event Planning and Consulting. I'm super excited about today's topic because it's on something that I am going through right now and experiencing with a client. We are in the middle. We're 2 days out of 3 completed with our virtual event. And they have not done a virtual event like this with their clientele before. We were kind of one of those people that was forced into a situation with COVID-19 where our live event that was supposed to be taking place had to be moved to virtual. They wanted to do exactly what I've been teaching my clients to do, and that is to stay relevant, to stay in front of their clients, to continue to serve them, to continue to be there for them, and provide opportunities for them to get together again as well, because they all look forward to that every time they have an event. So what we discovered today is something that kind of caught us off guard, but in a good way. We actually talked a little bit about it today through our breaks, and that is the benefits that we are discovering through a virtual event. See, when all of this started happening about a month or two ago, where live events were put on hold and people had to kind of shift their focus and pivot to do virtual, the big thing was people didn't have the opportunity to network, and they missed that the most. Now, granted, what I'm about to share with you does not mean networking in person is not going to be the benefit once live happens again, because these guys are still anxious. They cannot wait until they see each other again, hopefully in the coming 13 weeks or so when their next event is ready to happen. However, one of the presentations was actually 3, one more to be happening tomorrow for this particular topic I'm about to talk about, that we all realized as the host that it was awesome. And people are really engaging, which brings that networking into it. So here's the secret. The big aha that Sherry discovered through her client's event that we're doing right now virtually is when you have scheduled at your live event the big takeaway, the big contest where you have clients that are going to be sharing from stage what has been happening in their business based on what you've been teaching them, where they are now compared to where they were before they started to put into place and implement what you've been teaching them. So my particular client, I'm not going to share names, has been doing this kind of contest for a while now. And they do it once a year. They have events 3 to 4 times a year, and once a year they have this particular contest where anywhere from 3 to 4 of their clients get an opportunity to share from stage what they've been doing since learning all of these things over the years of being taught by my client what they need to do to implement into their practice and to their business. So that we were wondering ahead of time, how are we going to do this successfully in a virtual component? It was promised to them to present. The finalists were already chosen. People were excited to hear from them, but how are we going to be able to deliver this in a virtual setting to where the finalists, were going to get the best opportunity possible to share everything and engage, interact with the attendees so that they would get all the votes possible for them to win. And here's what we discovered. So up front, they had plenty of opportunity to practice if they wanted to present live, and they all each discovered that if they were to, say, turn on their screen live on Zoom, which was the platform we used, would they be able to get it done within the timeline that they received? And the answer came back after many, many times of doing it, no, they were going way over the time. Now, in a virtual setting, me being someone as a strategic event planner that handles logistics for hundreds of events, you have to stay on time, even more so really virtually than you do live, because you have more flexibility live than you do virtually, because you're going to lose the attention of people virtually if you don't stand by the times that you structured and put out there. So it was really, really super important that each one of these presentations stayed on time, and that each one of them, again, this is another takeaway, each one of them had to have the exact same amount of time for their presentation and for the Q&A follow-up afterwards. So here's what they discovered. It was better for them to pre-record. So they each pre-recorded what they were going to be presenting during their certain amount of minutes that they had. I'm not telling you that for a reason, because everybody is different. So they had a particular set of time, and so they all pre-recorded, which allowed our tech team, who's super amazing at what they do, to put in their intro based on the opening reel that we had on our first morning, which was yesterday. So they each had their opening, like 30 seconds of the same kind of theme. So again, it goes along with the theme. And so that sped up the introduction because it was all the same amount of time for each one. And then their video presentation played. It gave them an opportunity to be super creative. They could throw in videos, little video clips. They could throw in really cool animated images that would bring humor. They got to show graphs and charts of where their numbers were to date and where they were prior to implementation. They got to share family photos, all of those particular things that you would normally share on stage. But sometimes speakers go over on certain parts of their presentations that they don't necessarily need to or should focus on. So by pre-recording it, they were able to really practice it so that they could focus more of their allotted time on the important stuff that mattered. Here's the next point I want to make. I'm losing track of my points here. Here's the next point. While this is playing, here's the big takeaway. While this is playing, people in the chat that were watching and participating in the event, their peers, their former colleagues, their other people that they're, other members that they meet with on a consistent basis, were asking them questions, and then giving them prompts and yeah, the way to go, great numbers, and all of this stuff. So while it was being broadcasted virtually, what the contestants were doing were communicating in the chat with the people that were asking them questions. You see where I'm going with this, right? You cannot do that successfully in the same amount of time that you can virtually at a live event. Because at a live event, the presenters have to focus on their presentation. While they're focusing on their presentation, sometimes they go off on a tangent because they get into something or they get distracted and they spend too much time on a particular slide or two that they really shouldn't be taking the time on. They should be taking the time on the stuff that matters, that's going to get them the votes. So their presentation was rehearsed. It was down to the minute. It gave them the opportunity to really hit on the good points while it's being played. When someone in the virtual audience saw something like, oh, that's awesome, they'd give them kudos in the chat. Everybody sees it. Everybody sees it. Awesome, right? And if they have a follow-up question as to something that they discussed in the video, they can put that follow-up question to them directly, and the contestants are answering it back. You're not going to get that through live. If you want that same sort of opportunity live, you have to expand the amount of time for every contestant. And you don't know if every contestant is going to require the same amount of time. So it screws up your schedule. You don't know how much time to post, and this and that. So, we were seeing this and we were like, whoa, that's a super cool side effect, if you will, of taking this and going virtual. And we're like, how can we somehow figure out how to implement some sort of virtual component with the contestants at the live event? So when they do this again, we want to be able to continue that interaction. And of course, the first thing that we all thought of is that we encourage them to pre-record their presentation so that it's just a video being played of their whole presentation. And, of course, they're there live, but it allows them the opportunity to really get their points across. And then we're going to all put our heads together. I've been researching a lot of different things. My terminology, you've heard me bring up a couple of times in videos about bionic events and how you can structure that engagement. All of these things brings me to another video I'll have here later where I talk about something else that was an aha moment for this client doing a virtual event. He's always going to want to do live, but he did realize that he needs to input some sort of virtual component into his process. But I hope you guys got what I just said. The aha that we took away from this today was having the opportunity now, because some of you who may be watching this who had live events scheduled and you had contests going on of the best of, that's what in the old GKC days with Bill and Dan Kennedy, Bill Glazer and Dan Kennedy's events, where we had the best of, where we had contestants coming up on stage. They'd have a certain amount of time to present. Some would get through it perfectly. Others would rush through it because they were running out of time and things like that. But they all did an amazing job. And so when your event, it happened to have to go from live to virtual, you probably are wondering, how in the world am I going to do that? And looking at it as though it's not going to go off as well as you had hoped. In our case, it's going off better than we hoped. People are really getting a lot out of it. And it was just super cool to see kind of this unfold in a virtual way. It opened up the doors again for more engagement, which is the number one thing that was a concern when going from live to virtual, is the engagement component, that it was actually a positive thing for this particular type of session. Now, again, we're doing the same thing through the rest of our live event. Is we've got the chat going, we've got, I'm typing in notes and stuff based on what's being said, so people can kind of grab that. They've got a printed guide, they've got a virtual guide, they've got there's just so many different things that we're doing that is a huge benefit. I could go on and on and on, but I think I'm going to save that for a different video, because it kind of talks about the umbrella of the benefits and how I'm going to be working with other clients on what those benefits look like virtually, and how I would love you to understand what those benefits are so that you can look at this in a whole different way, such as we are doing right now. So the takeaway again today is how doing your presentations in a way that is more of a competition type of presentation, where you have contestants and such. And hey, if you haven't thought of doing that before, now's the time to actually do something like that. You could do not really a live, but a virtual event. Live events will be back soon, but in the meantime, maybe you could do some sort of virtual event where you have your particular clients who are doing amazing, especially, kind of through what's happening right now, how well people are really, not only just surviving, but thriving through what's happening. Maybe you could do some sort of presentation on that, where some of your clients that you've been working with to implement things are doing so well right now. Maybe you could do a one-day virtual event where you have them present, have them pre-record it so that they can put as much cool effects and graphs and numbers and pictures and really good stuff in that pre-recorded presentation, so that when you have your virtual event, you're playing it, but they're there live to interact through the chat with the people that are watching. I think it's really super cool. And I was really excited about it today, because yesterday we had one and we saw how great it went. Today we had two. So we really got to see how well it was doing. And then people were even going back to yesterday's presenter and asking him questions, and they were going back and forth. So, and it doesn't honestly take away from what's happening with whoever else is presenting at the time, because they're still getting it. And I'm putting notes in. So again, think about that concept, something you might not have thought of before, doing some sort of contest in a virtual way with your clients who are implementing what you teach them and are being successful at it. There's a whole list of pros as to why you should be doing something like that. It's credibility, it's teachability, it's a moment in time where you get to teach others, and these others that you have taught and they're being successful, they get an opportunity to teach, and they're giving you credibility, and it's getting an opportunity for people to engage and network. I mean, there's just so many, a whole list of benefits from this. So if you have any questions, I would love if you would put your comments below. I'd love to hear your feedback, and maybe any kind of questions that you have based on what I talked about today. If you want to know more in-depth detail about what I was talking about with timing and what the contest looks like, or any other kinds, if you just want to talk about what you could do, to create something like that for your business in a virtual event, so that at some point when you go live, you can kind of carry that into it as well, and it'll be super, super engaging with your followers. So this is Sherry Sokolowski, a strategic event planner of SLS Event Planning, here to help and serve you discover new and exciting ways to bring your live events and virtual to life to build your business and brand from time and time to come, and again and again. Please leave your comments below. Do me a favor and like this video if you liked it. If you have feedback, comments, good or bad, I would love to hear from you. It helps me understand what you're looking for and to bring even more video content out there that you are looking for. Stay safe and stay in touch.